So, it's finally come to this. The mainstream media and the shit libs, the libtards, your average Democratic voter, have gone so far off the rails that they now insist wholeheartedly that Elon Musk is a Russian agent. I'm not surprised. This is the logical progression. First it was Trump as a Russian agent. Then it was Trump supporters are Russian agents. Then I think at some point they threw Joe Rogan in that category too, because Joe Rogan, was down with ivermectin. But then Elon Musk, he finally crossed the line. He admitted that Ukraine can't win this war, and that they're going to have to extract themselves from this situation via negotiated settlement. This despite the fact that Elon Musk and SpaceX have openly played a part in supporting the Ukrainian side of the war. Now, I think it's almost certain that Elon Musk did not have a choice in the matter. SpaceX is a U.S. government contractor, and the U.S. government wanted to help Ukraine. So SpaceX would have been out of a job if they didn't go along and try and set up Starlink in Ukraine to run the Ukrainian weapons systems. And so I don't think that this is some big epiphany that Elon Musk just had within the last week. Elon Musk likely has thought this the whole time, but has kept his mouth shut because it was his job to play the role of, friend to Ukraine, and he is still operating under that assumption. He's still coming from the perspective of, hey, I'm a big supporter. I directly supported your war effort, and even I think that you can't win this. Now, the Ukrainian regime, it's not really... You can't look at it in a vacuum as if it is its own self. Zelensky's not his own man, just like, Joe Biden isn't. You can't look at, here's Joe Biden expressing his opinion. Joe Biden doesn't have an opinion. Zelensky doesn't have an opinion. They are puppets. And so Zelensky bot went out and immediately, attacked Elon on Twitter. We all know this. This is old news. The new news today is that Vice News, of all places, Vice, that... a bastion of hard-nosed war correspondents, has published a bombshell report stating that Elon Musk colluded directly with Vladimir Putin, with Russia and the Kremlin, to craft this novel peace plan that he came up with, and ensured Vladimir Putin that all of his demands would be met. Now, there's so much wrong with this article. The first thing that should catch your eye, before you even look at the substance, is the fact that this was published by Vice. Vice, not only do they no longer do actual decent, war work, which they did for a time. Like right around the time you had Vice News, which Tim Pool helped set up, which was a great organization at the time that did a lot of really cool on-the-ground stuff in Ukraine and Syria. And so there was a time in the past, many, many years ago, 8 years ago maybe, that I would have taken a report from Vice to this effect seriously. But even still, even if you choose to take the report seriously, which you shouldn't these days, because Vice is a shadow of its former self. It's neither the Vice of the 1990s nor the Vice of the early 2010s. It is purely a propagandistic rag, and not even a well-connected propagandistic rag along the lines of the New York Times or the Washington Post. It's not even, a dumping ground for the CIA's worst propaganda pieces, like, say, the Daily Beast. Everything that gets leaked to the Daily Beast is the stuff that was too absurd for the CIA to put in the pages of the Washington Post. Vice is probably below that. And so, Vice saying that Elon confided with Putin is on its face absurd. But second, the idea that this peace agreement was something that Elon came up with, one, it was unique, and like took a lot of thinking. Spoiler alert, it didn't take a lot of thinking. It was just the Minsk agreement. That's all Elon tweeted out. He said, hey, what about the Minsk agreement? He didn't call it the Minsk agreement, but that's what he described. And two, the Ruskies, Putin, he's not going to be happy with the Minsk agreement at this point. They already tried the Minsk agreement, and Ukraine did not hold up their end of the deal. So, old Putin, his demands were not met by what Elon said. The only people who could believe that are ridiculous Westerners who don't understand the Russian position. If Elon, if his goal was to suggest that Ukraine essentially give Russia everything they want, he would have tweeted that. He didn't. He tweeted part of what Russia wants and part of what Ukraine wants. He tweeted a compromise that the Ruskies at this point would not be satisfied with because they've already annexed 2 additional oblasts beyond Donbass. But nevertheless, the entirety of blue checkmark Twitter, because they don't have any, they can't actually in good faith, or I shouldn't even say in good faith, they never publish anything in good faith. They would be too embarrassed to republish this Vice story, saying, oh my gosh, Elon Musk colluded with Russia to negotiate peace with Ukraine, which, by the way, even if he did, that's like not a bad thing to accuse someone of. You're accusing him of trying to broker a peace deal to end a war that has killed tens of thousands of people over the course of the last 8 years. This conflict between Russia and Ukraine has raged for nearly a decade. Tens of thousands of people, civilians and soldiers, have been killed. And the premise of the story is that Elon Musk, globe-trotting billionaire, trying to do what he can to end that war, is the villain. That's how you know that. I'm not going to say, that the Russians are the good guys. I don't think that. But certainly, if the West vilifies people who advocate peace, you can at least be certain that the West are not the good guys. Is that fair enough? If you don't want peace, if your choice is to keep fighting a war that's killed tens of thousands of people and will only kill tens of thousands more, a war that is unwinnable, you're not a good person. You shouldn't be allowed to sleep at night. No justice, no sleep. That's what I say to the neo-libs and the neocons. And now you have this neo-lib clown, Ian Bremmer, who, what is the name of his silly little group? It's like the Eurasia Institute or something. Ian Bremmer said, Elon told me that he talked to Putin, and he told me what Putin's demands were. Okay, Bremmer. I mean, this is just pathetic. This is another example of the hysteria that 2 years from now, once it dies down, everyone will know that Elon Musk was right, just like everyone now, essentially accepts that Joe Rogan was right. But if you bring that up and say, hey, remember a couple of years ago when all of you were wrong and Joe Rogan was right, or all of you were wrong and Elon Musk was right, they'll say, well, if you bring up the Joe Rogan or the vaccines or anybody, you bring up Robert Malone, you bring up Peter McCullough, you bring up the Surgeon General of Florida, Joseph Ladapo. They say, what are you talking about the Wu flu for? What are you talking about COVID and vaccines for? We're on Ukraine now. And they'll do the same thing in 2 years from now when they don't care about Ukraine anymore. They'll go, war in Ukraine? We're worried about the Kurds now. What are you talking about Ukraine for? Or actually, by then, it'll probably be the Taiwanese or something. Oh, what are you talking about Ukraine for? We're on to Taiwan now. So what if Elon Musk was right about Ukraine? That doesn't matter now. That's in the past. And so the West just keeps lurching from crisis to crisis, always trying to keep, its people on the edge, always trying to keep them anxious. And this is not a way to live. But I guess the most interesting thing here to me is that what this all means is that the Dems and the establishment in general are abandoning Elon Musk. They are throwing him out. They are doing just what they did to Trump after he was elected and saying, no, we will never tolerate you. You go too far outside of the mainstream. you're outside the Overton window, and so therefore, even though we very easily, could co-opt you and use you to our own benefit, we just can't stand the sight of you. And so they're chasing Elon, like, over to the side that I'm on, which makes me nervous, because he's a spooky dude. I don't trust him. I've never trusted him. I've always been a Tesla bear, as far as, online financial communities go. I've always congregated with those people. And so I'm uncomfortable being in the position, being on the same side of, any issue as Elon Musk. Or I should say, like, the same, like, general side on everything now. Because that's what they're doing. They've exiled him. That's what this means. Once you're a Russia colluder, you don't come back from that as far as the mainstream goes. He's dead to them. He's as bad as Tulsi. He's as bad as Joe Rogan. And Tulsi now, she was a Democrat in name only for quite some time now, but now she's officially left the Democratic Party over their anti-white policies. I think it's very funny that Tulsi Gabbard and Kanye West are going to save the white race. But I guess, Elon is, he at least has friends over on this side. He has Peter Thiel already, fellow PayPal billionaire, I believe. They were both in on that together. I don't study these people very closely, to be honest. As far as their pasts go, I watch what they do these days. Peter Thiel, another spooky guy, Palantir, not a fan. Pre-crime what is that Tom Cruise movie, Minority Report? I don't like that stuff. Peter Thiel, very much into that. Seems like a pretty spooky guy. But again, funds, some decent candidates and whatnot, like Masters and J.D. Vance. Say what you will about, Peter Thiel might be a villain in my mind, but he's the enemy of worse villains. And I guess I could say the same about Elon Musk now. Even Elon, he seems to be gauging the situation of the populace much better than, your average elite. He made a very interesting comment about how, electric cars should not completely supplant, fossil fuels and all this, and how that's ridiculous, which is true. I mean, that's just a statement of fact, even though, he's one of these climate crazies, like on the level of Greg Thunberg. But he understands that, you try and go all in on that, even if he might believe it, that would eviscerate the middle and lower classes of the entire planet. The only people who would survive, a green revolution would be billionaires like Elon Musk. But that's assuming that, the breakdown of society wouldn't spark a revolution, which would claim the lives of all of these billionaires like Elon Musk who have pushed us into a green apocalypse. And so that's why I think that he might be one of the lesser villains. And therefore I can be cautiously optimistic about welcoming him to our side. Now, and again, I don't want to imply that he's changing his views. He's not. It's that the Overton window is shifting, and people like him are being thrown out. And so therefore, he's kind of getting lumped in with the rest of us malcontents. So, with that said, I will see you folks back here tomorrow.